Welcome to Proper DIY Garden Edition. If you're like me and you like to save money, today I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. Some of you may know that I've got a brand new garden that's a reasonable size that came with 0 plants in it. So to buy enough plants to fill the garden, especially from my local garden centre where they know how to charge, would cost me many thousands of pounds, which I really don't want to do. So this year I've been propagating and dividing plants as much as I can just to build up the stock so I don't have to spend so much money. For instance, if you look at the wall behind me, most of this ivy came from just 2 or 3 plants that I bought in the spring, and I took cuttings and propagated, which is quite easy to do with ivy, but for many plants it's even easier than that. So let's first talk about grasses. I've got 2 grasses here that I bought in the spring, which I immediately divided up into about 8 different clumps, and since then I've divided them some more. Anything in the grass family can be split like this, just by cutting vertically through the clump, making sure enough root system is kept on each section to allow it to easily take and establish itself again. The best time to do this is in the spring, but really, as long as the grass is actively growing, then any time in the summer this will work. I make sure the new clumps of grass I end up with are big enough to establish quickly, but you could, with a bit more care, divide them even smaller, which would accelerate the propagation process as long as you make sure that they're well watered and they don't dry out. And the result is now that all of this has come from the original 2 plants, plus all the grass that's once again I've planted in this wall, which I think is about 8 clumps in itself. And to be honest with you, something like this I could divide up now into maybe 4 or 6, so I've got plenty of grass ready for next season. This is quite good for softening the edges of any hard landscape or path as well. The other grass I've been dividing quite successfully is, how do I put it, a bit bigger. Bamboo has been very popular for many years, and it's a member of the grass family. Rather than having individual roots directly from the blades, like on a typical grass, it has a system of rhizomes, which are runners that sit between the cane and the roots, and will spread around the pot until it's absolutely packed full. This is golden bamboo that I split over a year ago, and this time, rather than using a knife, either an old hand saw or even a reciprocating saw is needed to cut through these rhizomes to divide the plant. Cutting through these doesn't seem to hurt the plant. If anything, it promotes new rhizome growth, and before you know it, new canes will be appearing and filling the pot. Back to the present day, and today I'm splitting these 2 plants. This banana plant, a Musa basju or hardy Japanese banana, I've had since the spring, and as it's grown it's sprouted this pup that's joined underneath the surface that's now ready to be split from its parent. It's also got a few smaller ones growing which I don't think are big enough yet to successfully survive on their own. I start though with this Canna lily, which I've only just bought and has 3 distinct stems that I think will be happy to be split into separate plants. Canna stems are connected under the surface by rhizomes, which then have roots coming from them. I just remove some soil so I can find out exactly where they join each other and then cut along this line, trying to end up with an equal share of root system on each. So all I've basically done is cut through the rhizome that's connecting each one together. From the rhizomes there's a series of roots, and it's important to have a root network obviously on each one for it to keep living, and this looks like it's worked out pretty well. There's a nice mass of roots on each one. So I'm going to pot each one of these up individually in some nice free draining compost, and then maybe in the spring that rhizome by then would have grown out again, or I could probably divide it again. So maybe next year, rather than having 3, we could have maybe 6 or 9, or in some ways, as many as you want. The other way of dividing these is to remove the soil and find the nodes or eyes on the rhizome network and divide it with at least 1 node on each, potentially making more than just 3 plants. But this really needs to be done in the spring. So here in August, I'm playing it safe and splitting this without the plant having to struggle too much. So on to my favourite, which is the banana plant. As I said, this pup is absolutely ready to get removed and to survive on its own. These other small ones here, I don't know if they're going to take, because they do need their own root system before you remove them. I think I'll remove one and see. If I've got nothing to lose, if it doesn't take, then at some point early next spring this will be doing exactly the same, and I'll be able to remove some more. So I think we'll concentrate firstly on this main one, and all I'm going to do without removing it from the pot is to cut down on the side of the main stem here as tight as I can to remove it, and that means that as much root system is going to be kept with the pup to keep it alive, as this has probably got plenty already. So without removing it from the tub, I'm just going to cut down and see if I can take this one away. Severing the pup is quite satisfying in a nerve-wracking type way, and like cutting through a soft carrot. But to be able to remove it fully, I also need to cut through the roots all the way round to free it from the pot. Pleased with that. Look at that, there's lots and lots of roots on this side, although I've severed it, and those roots are looking really quite big and nice and healthy as well, so really pleased with that. While you watch me pot up this new banana plant, I would just like to invite you to have a look at the other videos on the channel, which are all based around the house and garden. And if you'd like to support the channel and see additional material and extra weekly behind the scenes videos, please subscribe to our Patreon page, a link of which is in the description below. So I've just cut off another one of the smaller pups, but I was right, this isn't going to take. It was just essentially coming off of the main stem. It's got no roots coming out at all. Even if I plant that up now, unfortunately that's not going to take. It needs to be a little bit older than that. So these other ones I'm just going to leave here to grow on, and when they're big enough maybe they'll have enough roots and I'll just be able to divide it again. So if you're like me and you don't want to spend thousands of pounds on the plants in your garden, you've got to learn to divide and propagate. And the ones I've shown you today, anyone can do. It's absolutely simple and it saves you many, many pounds as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will see you next time.